that brings up another question.
It is gonna be cheaper to have them deliver it.
Sounds as if,
Yeah, well, at the immediate time, it would be cheaper. Well, what about next year and the year after?
yeah. Hopefully the prices are gonna be
Because it's
They've
going,
got these small dump trailers you can pull behind your pickup, you get hydraulic, you can dump it out.
Where's that at?
I don't know who's got one, maybe.
Well, I got
Powhattan has one, I think, I'm not sure.
I've got one.
Pull behind the pickup?
One's gooseneck.
Oh, it's a gooseneck. And they did hydraulic.
Yeah.
If you're gonna get 2 ton of coal patch, 2 ton ain't very much. I imagine that little speed bump down here in the middle of the street down here, I imagine that's got 2 ton of coal patch.
And it ought to be removed.
It sure ought to before somebody gets sued over it.
The one on Main Street got removed by the snowplow. I watched it go.
Should have never been put in.
I bet that was a pretty sight.
She's like, hey!
okay, well,
I'll check on that.
okay. And, okay, that's good. Okay, and Bob, do you have anything on the Legion?
Our attorney tried to get a hold of the guy that you talked to when you were in out of Sabetha,
Yeah,
and he's talked to him a couple times on the phone. They've never been able, he's not been able to get an appointment with him to sit down with him. And just from the conversations on the phone, he couldn't understand what his issue was with the contract.
Well, my issue is I wanna see how it benefits the town of Powhattan. I don't know if I was the only one, I think we might have voted on it, that we needed to have an attorney look at it before we agreed.
Yeah, he has one. You have one.
But he said he's,
The current contract that we're still under is almost identical to this, to the new one, with the exceptions of, what was the exception? The amount that we pay, and that we get, and that the Legion gets to keep the proceeds from if we rent.
but nobody showed me that. I've yet to see that contract, which I also asked for.
Oh, well, I emailed it to
I
everybody,
know I've
emailed
seen it.
address,
I
all
got
that
it
stuff.
for you, so.
Is that it? Is that the one? Because it's
Same
not-
one.
This week? I think that's the
You
new one.
wanna see the new one or the old one? I don't have the old one.
One's the old one.
Yeah, I've already seen the new one.
I'll send you the old one and the new one.
I think, didn't I mail the old one, email the old one to the church office, to the city office?
No, I know we have the new one,
But you can look at it now.
and I think we have the old one too. Shelley's got it on
Old
her.
one that's got sort of,
Well, I have the draft, that's what I have.
Is that the old one?
The draft, isn't that what it was called?
And then it's
There's
on
a
the
draft, and then there's the one that we're currently under, which
Yeah,
was
that's the old
the
one.
one that
Yeah,
Lyle
that's the
had,
one that I have
That's the
not
one
seen.
you don't have,
Yeah.
okay.
the one that Lyle signed and Dwayne signed, and I can't recall the year. It's been quite a while since Lyle was in.
And I think this is it too. You're right. I have two of them, because that was written down, that was the old one, and that was some of the changes.
So it's basically the same, Bob, with the exception of the proceeds from rental go to the Legion.
And we changed, the old one, I can't remember how much we were supposed to pay, $75 a month, which you guys waived that until it was usable.
Right.
And then, I changed this contract to say $1 a year, simply because we gave the city 2/3 of this building for nothing. And the city hadn't fulfilled their obligation in repairing it since the storm.
There's been a lot of money poured into this building, it may not be,
Not the Legion part, other than the roof.
the cleanup was horrendous. You guys weren't in here helping us clean.
around the insurance company, was not satisfied with the way the contract was stated.
The new lease agreement?
Yeah, they weren't satisfied with the way it was phrased out, and the insurance company essentially did not want to be responsible for any accidents in the building.
Well, it was.
We took that part, we took the liability out of it.
Yes, because
That's
it's.
why I believe that liability has been removed from that, you know.
Yeah, we
As
took
far
the
as,
liability out of it.
if you're talking about this, getting us repaired, the ceilings and all of that, you know, that, there's a sense of liability for doing that, just remember us. You know, that's the ones that are doing it, the American Legion, and the volunteers who help us.
Yeah,
And so, it's not just not gonna affect the city at all.
that's what he was supposed to have been reviewing and hashing it out with the higher ups with that insurance company. And I don't know, maybe he isn't, maybe he just dropped the ball.
Well,
It wasn't the terminology, because it said landlord instead, or tenant.
Leasing.
It said lease, and we changed everything to say agreement,
Right,
which was what you guys had.
because he didn't like the terminology, so we changed that.
Since then, I talked to my Farm Bureau agent, and she said, and no, I didn't document it, but she said that the city's liability is basically if somebody trips on a crack in the sidewalk or stumbles over the threshold, that's on the city. Or, you know, something that happens outside the building. And if we're leasing it, or renting it, or have an agreement to use it, then we're responsible if we rent it out.
That's not what our current insurance company says.
Yeah, our current insurance company was not satisfied with the way it was written up. But they changed all of that, and now supposedly their attorney got a hold of the attorney in Sabetha that I had reviewed that. And apparently, he's not getting back with him. Maybe
The
he just,
attorney or the insurance company?
no, the attorney. Because he's the one that took it up to the insurance company, and they kept kicking it up till it got up to the top of the chain, I guess. And
Insurance companies are hard to argue with.
yeah, so everyone said they wasn't familiar with it, but then we changed all of that and took all of that leasing and stuff out of
We took
there.
the lease stuff out and
Because that's what they,
replaced with agreement.
Yes.
because that's what they were, concerned with, was the terminology, the leasing,
Yeah.
see? And so we took all of that out of there. And then they forwarded to, this attorney is supposed to be following that up, and apparently he's dropped the ball on it.
Light a fire.
Yeah, so maybe I'll get in touch with him again and find out what the problem is.
So right now, it's a non-issue, so we can figure out where we're at with him.
Table.
Yeah.
So is there any other sticking points with this
Yep.
new
So
lease?
is there any reason why we cannot, at least begin to do the repairs as we proposed, put the ceiling tiles in? Is that gonna be a problem with the city that we,
It might
that
be
we
with the
move forward
insurance
with
company.
that?
Well, our insurance company would not be liable for that.
That's what Dwayne was saying.
Farm Bureau agent said as long as it's members of the Legion that are doing the work, that's on us.
Well, you're a Farm Bureau agent, put that in writing. I mean, seriously, when you're dealing with insurance companies, you can't make mistakes.
I don't know.
So where are we at with the historical site things?
I haven't talked to Lyle,
Is
so I
that
don't know.
gone, is that dead?
I haven't known.
Well, you just give a little common sense consideration to it, considering that those grants and stuff are, we might as well say, matching grants.
Yeah.
And what it would take to restore that thing anywhere near to its original point, the cost would be horrendous.
I think
Then
There are two types of historical grants, and the one that the city is looking at is a preservation grant, not a restoration. Preservation being keeping the structure basically there, but it does not limit you from doing modernization. So like you could put in new restrooms, you can put in an elevator so we can use the second story. It is not restore it back to where it was in the 1900s.
And what's the matching fee on that?
I don't know. I just know that when Sarah talked about the grants before, she was talking about a restoration, not a preservation. And the preservation does not have near as many stipulations for the city.
Does the preservation grant prevent them from starting on their project?
They're preserving it back to the 1970s.
Back in the 1970s, that was a place where they stored grain.
No, that was way before
I
that.
had nitrogen in there. I remember, we loaded, remember Dennis? Had growing seed too, we used to suck the growing seed.
So we are still talking when they put the those are 1970s style decorations.
But that space there has been modified and changed already.
Right, so the preservation is, we're not saying, because if you take it back to where it was in the 1990s, you're going to be back to the Brokaws, whatever it was. Because it wasn't a Legion Hall in the 1990s. They're talking a preservation though. They're looking to make sure that we can try to keep the building structure and not have somebody just, oh, that's an old, half of Powhattan got knocked down. Somebody decided to buy it for their pictures or whatever and tore down almost all the buildings. Which maybe you guys that like grass like that, but it would be a real shame to have this building torn down. This is about the only thing we have left in the town. So,
When did bingo start?
Well,
Bingo,
1949, 48, you know.
Here, bingo.
Yes, well, I don't know exactly where actually.
Well, I meant
They
here.
held it, we started the bingo way back when.
We gotta stay on
That's
task
one of the
here.
first things we did.
So,
Mr. Mayor, my only question is, how many years are we gonna look at this project? Because it's been probably 5 since we gave you this part of the building in order to do that. And we haven't moved an inch.
Okay, now, to maintain the preservation would not affect this coming in here and putting a drop ceiling in here.
I'm thinking everything they're gonna do is something that if it needs to be redone later, it can be redone later.
What would the council think about go ahead and giving them the okay, as long as they accept responsibility for any liability when the work is being done? Would that work for you, Sharon?
You're responsible for your own accidents.
The Legion,
If we get it in writing.
there'll be Legion members that are doing the work. I'm assuming most all Legion members, I don't know that, I'm gonna still.
We could vote on, we got enough of our members right here tonight to vote on it.
All right, can't interfere with this meeting, we gotta keep on moving forward.
There's such a thing as a hold harmless agreement.
Yeah.
That we could all sign a document that said we won't sue this, or we won't hold the city liable for anything that happens to us while we're working on this.
That works for me.
Okay. I make a motion to accept that.
I'll make a
Yeah,
motion
I'll
that
second.
let the Legion start to work with that, agreement. That they would sign a thing that they would be responsible for the.
Okay, second,
Jackie seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous, motion carried. Okay, you guys got that? Y'all ready to go?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll print a stack of those and we'll all have it signed.
Don't forget the trees. Don't forget the thing about the trees.
Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I used to work in a building that dealt with the Historical Society. And the stipulations is it has to be able to be put back into original
That's a restoration.
Right.
And we're
It has to
talking
be
preservation.
able to go back, so, permanent changes cannot occur, but a suspended ceiling is not a permanent
Right.
act.
And just remember, there's a difference between a restoration and a preservation. And we're working for preservation. And that, I mean, because there are ideas about putting in new restrooms and putting in an elevator and hopefully being able so we can use the second floor.
Well, the second floor's got way more things we would rather preserve.
I thought of over a color of a door.
Yeah. The one thing I would, I'm sorry, well, one thing I would ask if there's something of historical note, like lights or anything, if you're gonna take them out, fine, but keep them where we can put them back if need be
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
at some time. Cause the lights are cool. That be okay?
Okay. Galen? Where you go?
He's back there.
He's over there.
Would you come up and stand down here, please?
Sure.
You got your gun ready?
Would you explain to the council here about the members and bracing stuff down below?
Well, anyways, I checked the basement, like the humidifiers, and checked all the I-beams and stuff like that. We have several, about 3 or 4 of them are starting to crack like this. And it needs to be fixed before this floor ends up in the basement.
Is that what David Barnes
He
did?
did some of that.
He did.
There is like 3 or 4 between the wall and here are brand new on each side. But there are several jacks holding the members of the floor, especially over in that direction. Over here in the brace inside the office, down where the sub pump is, there is a nice piece of angle iron that's held up by 3 jacks, structural jacks. And I noticed as the building is settling, we had a sub pump pole that was firmly in the ground. Well, after a while, that settling this way has knocked that pole straight down. So what I did was, there's a piece of wire laying on the floor, and the bracket was still on the pole itself. I just put it back up there and baling wired it back up there. So we have a sub pump to drain that sub pump area down there. But we have to do something about the floor. Because if not, this whole building is gonna go down,
So you
especially
said
this side.
4 feet here and 4 feet there, but what's in the middle?
Yeah, from here to Tracy is brand new on each side.
Okay, so you're not
Well,
talking large.
anything from here that way and here that way needs to be fixed.
And are there?
Is it clear up under the?
Well, no, up on it stops right about here.
Said you took pictures, you want to show them?
Yeah.
About 4 feet.
I don't feel that the building is quite up to code for major improvements until that floor is fixed.
Well, maybe it's just a matter of the beam down the middle with,
It's starting to split down the middle.
what do they call those?
That's starting to flake off, which is eventually right here in the middle. Yeah, the floor joist is looking very good.
Listen, do with an I-beam.
Jacks.
Do with an I-beam going this way, with jacks under it.
Neat, right down the middle.
Some house jacks.
Like a hammer? Like a hammer?
Well, yeah, I don't know how big a lumber they make. My house is like a 8 by 8 or something, and then the jacks are holding that up.
Dave, we need to look at photos. He's got photos he can show you.
I'll show you here in a little bit after the meeting.
Okay, so what we need then, if you guys don't want to go down there and look at that, need a motion.
Kind of nasty down there.
I spent enough time in my cellar.
That's why I had Dylan look at it.
I did the basements.
come out here and look at this and see what we could do about getting it